everybody. My name is Tiana Gaddy, and welcome to this masterclass of tonight. So first, we're going to get started with introducing our panelists. But first, my name is Tiana Gaddy. I am a junior public relations student from Charlotte, North Carolina. I am also a CFA ambassador at the illustrious North Carolina A&T State University. So first, we're going to get started with introducing our panelists of tonight. So first up, we have Jarick Walker, an influencer and entertainment marketer from the NFL. Jarick, take it away.
How y'all doing? Jarick Walker, born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, Jamaican American, first generation Jamaican. So all my Caribbeans that are watching right now, what's popping? Currently working for NFL as influencer and talent marketing manager. I've been there for almost a year now. So far, so good. And pretty much what we do is focus on bringing Gen Z and millennials closer to the game by engaging them and meeting them where they're at by working with their favorite influencers and celebrities.
Thank you. Next up, we have Morgan Davis, a manager of brand partnerships and events with Raedio. Morgan, take it away.
I didn't want to talk second, but okay. Hey, I'm Morgan. Everybody calls me Mo. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. I attended Park Atlanta University, where I majored in mass media arts with the emphasis in radio, TV, film. I am currently at Raedio as the manager of brand partnerships and events and also do some artist relations. Basically, we are an audio everywhere company. We don't call ourselves a record label. So any place that you see music, which is everywhere, I find a way to just like integrate it and work with dope people to do dope things.
Awesome. Next up, we have Wright and Desmond Attmore, founders of 6 Degrees.
I'll kick it off. Desmond Attmore, based in Atlanta, originally raised in Brooklyn, New York. We both graduated from Morehouse College, class of 2013, where we studied marketing and did a bunch of cool stuff. We had a clothing brand. We worked a lot with like different talent. Now we have our agency where we focus on like 360 marketing. So anything from like branding and like art direction to more content creation and production, and a lot in like the space of like experiential activations, working with global brands like Adidas, Budweiser, and a ton more. So excited to be here and talking with everybody as well.
Yeah, Brian Wright, also graduated from Morehouse and co-founder of 6 Degrees, which is the creative marketing agency that Des just talked about. So.
Awesome. Last but not least, of brand partnerships and marketing of RnBae, we have Christina Jerome.
There you go. Hey everyone, my name is Chris. I specialize in brand partnerships and marketing and events. Essentially, I create R&B experiences. So whether it's online digitally or if it's an event, I'm doing them. I work with brands like Red Bull, Hennessy, Jack Daniels, pretty much to just create these R&B experience for people to just experience R&B at a new level. So that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. I went to ODU, I went to a PWI. I know it's not as glamorous as everyone else's, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
Great. So I'm going to stop talking here and hand it over to our moderator of tonight, Sharon B. Mills, owner and lead publicist of By SBM. Shannon, you can take it away.
Thank you, Tiana. First of all, I am so excited to be on here with everyone. You guys are all so dope. So looking forward to getting into the conversation, getting into the nitty gritty of everything. Okay, so first things first. How did you know? I'm sorry, like the laugh threw me off. But how did you know that you were good at branding and marketing? Like, what were your measurements for success? How long did it take you to really break into this?
Who's the question for?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is for everybody. My bad.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Look, Jarick, you look like you was ready. Oh, go ahead, man.
Desmond, wow, man. I felt like we connected in that green room earlier, but you're just gonna throw me under the bus. All right. I think it's a very interesting question. When did I realize that, okay, this is my thing. This is what I like. I think for me, it started actually before my full blown marketing journey started. So initially, after college, I went to Boston College. I worked for a nonprofit that worked with high school student athletes, and I loved it. I loved working with athletes. I was an athlete growing up, and after a while, I kind of realized that I don't think this is where I wanted to spend the rest of my time. At one point, I saw myself becoming a athletic director for a college, and now I can't even see that in my scope at all. But I took a job at the Nike store in Boston on Newbury Street, and literally it was just to make some extra money so I could move to LA. And it was because I really like sneakers and wanted to get that discount, which I did, 40% off. It was great. But in the process, they asked me to be a part of their run club, and the Nike Run Club, it was about community, but it was also kind of a marketing thing or arm outside of the store to bring in this community into the store. And I was not a runner. I hated running, but I joined it anyway. And after a while, I realized that I was kind of branding this run club where I became in charge of it, and the numbers started to go up, and more people were showing up every week, to the point where one day I just got hit up by someone in Nike corporate asking me, "Hey, how are you doing this?" And for me, I was just having a good time. And then I think in that moment, I was like, wait, this is work. Like and so after a while after that, and having different conversations with other people on that corporate and marketing side, I realized that there's a home for this type of skill set. And that's kind of what led me there. All right, Desmond, I feel like it's your turn, brother.
You got to unmute yourself, Desmond.
Sorry, I apologize. I think the interesting thing, kind of sidebarring when you're talking on like these different panels, let me brighten the screen back up. When you're talking on the different panels, it's just hearing the different perspectives of like, other people in your industry. So I was excited to be on here with you guys. And also I have my pen pad and my notes I'm learning as we're going along. But for myself, I know I started off, coming from New York. I had a hard time getting into college. I actually didn't get accepted to any college at all or university. I got denied from Morehouse, and 6 degrees stands for 6 degrees of separation, which has always been like the thread of like what we do, our relationship. So I just kept up with somebody in high school, and I would call this dude every day. And then eventually, like, we got to a point, we had a few phone calls, and he was like, yo, check your mail. He was like, if you can figure out a loan and you can get down here in the next week, we got you. You can get in. When I got to Morehouse, B. Wright had a clothing brand that he was doing. I had a clothing brand I was doing back home. And I just didn't feel as equipped as like a lot of my other brothers at Morehouse, who to me came from like, middle class to upper class, like households. And, they were fortunate enough to have like a lot more opportunities in high school and just be a part of like a lot of curricular activities and things like that. So when I met B. Wright running through campus and we just started talking, and he was already like diving into like graphics and stuff, I had a moment where I was just like, damn, like, I didn't feel like I had those tools, inside of my toolbox. I was like, I don't design, I'm not good at photography. Like, what am I going to do? So marketing was something that I picked up randomly because I wanted to be an asset. And at that moment, like, I was still trying to understand what marketing was. So the first thing I think I did, maybe B. Wright, correct me, but, Lupe Fiasco and other artists were coming to campus, and I would like type out like these proposals because, when you go to a HBCU, you want to be backstage at homecoming. And a lot of times they're hating. They're like, no, you don't work for the SGA. You don't work for this. You can't be backstage, A, B, C, D. So I said, well, instead of going through y'all, we're going to go directly to the artists. So we would make these customized like graphic buttons for our clothing brand or graphic t-shirts. And it would be like a collaborative like art piece of like whoever the artist was. And we would dive into, just kind of like reaching out to those people and letting them know like, hey, we're on campus. We do a lot of cool stuff on our own. Like, this would be dope. And then we would team up with them. And I remember I got the first response, I think it was from Lupe's people. And they were like, let's do it. How much does it cost? And I was like, wow, like I didn't know that, using my skill sets of what I'm learning from marketing could actually, bring us to this place and create that much like momentum and awareness for like our brand. So that was like the original start of kind of diving a little bit more into marketing. I think that I realized when I was starting to get good at it was when I was on the management team for Ray Shrimmer. I was the youngest person on the team, and I just had like fresh energy. I went on tour with The Weeknd and, you know, Shrimmer, and we did a whole bunch. And I remember in a few of my first meetings, their manager was like, yo, I'm not going to be able to make it. So I need you to go and I need you to handle this. And I ended up closing a brand partnership deal with Puma. And I think it was like for maybe 600 or 700 plus $1,000. And I was like, oh shit, I really just did that. Like that was me. Like I had the meeting, I created the vision, I executed it, I built the relationship, I took the person to coffee a bunch of times, A, B, C, D. So at that point I said, I think I'm really good at this. And then, you know, we were always creative and always doing cool stuff. So I think that's more of like my story of how I kind of felt more confident in being someone in the marketing field.
Okay, who's next? Let's let one of the ladies take it away. Yeah, Morehouse and Spelman are deep.
I guess I'll go. So I honestly got into marketing through social media. I used to run the social media of a local radio station that I worked at. And I only did that because I spent so much time on my phone anyways, was either like get fired or like tweet for the station. So they told me like, hey, you know, tweet for the station, let's see how it goes. I didn't really think that anyone could get paid to tweet or do anything like that. So I just, you know, listened to the station, promoted the promotions that we had going on, tweeted out what's playing, how you can win concert tickets. And I started to realize like, I'm creating a tone and voice for this station. This is marketing, this is digital marketing here. So from there, I've been everywhere, to be honest with you. My experience ranges from social media marketing to content to label relations to event planning. I've kind of done everything. I kind of got into brand partnerships because I realized that events do cost money. They're expensive. And if you're not having a brand partner, if it has to come out of pocket, it does get pretty expensive. So I found out that I'm pretty good at getting brands to give me money for the things that I want to do. So capitalized on that, started working with decks, working with bigger partners, working with things, just making RnBae more valuable to what they're buying into. And it just kind of just snowballed from there. I will say I kind of noticed with my branding skill when people started sending me purple things all the time. I would get anything from purple candy to purple t-shirts. They're like, oh, I thought of you just because my brand is purple. So I realized that I'm pretty decent at it and been doing it for a few years. So it's my start and where I am now.
Fire.
Morgan, not last but not least. Brian, do you want to go? Because I felt like Des kind of touched both of y'all.
I mean,
but go ahead, you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just keep it short because he kind of did. But I think with me, my moment where I knew I was kind of good at marketing and branding was we had the clothing line and we were doing a lot with the clothing brand, but it kind of got like attention of like a lot of people. So I landed like an internship at Atlantic Records, probably like when I was 19, just underneath Marsha St. Hubert, which is the SVP of marketing right now for Atlantic. And I think while like working underneath her, like, and just having a clothing line and doing things, she kind of guided me or kind of made it clear, like, well, what you're doing for your clothing line, you could kind of apply to artists, you could apply it to a product or a service. So I think the 2 years that I was interning, that was kind of like when I was just like, oh, I kind of could see it. And she's the reason why like that really pushed me more towards music marketing and kind of branding and partnership with artists and kind of creating those moments. So that's just what I wanted to add.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Morgan.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. When did I know? I still don't know sometimes, but I started off as one of the many things I did in college. I was a college marketing rep for Warner my senior year. So they would always just send me things and be like, okay, what should we do? Where do people hang out in Atlanta? All that jazz. So that was kind of like my start. And like, music and visuals go so hand in hand. So anytime I hear something, it's just like, let me think of something like what could really amplify this and make people be able to see it the same way that they hear it. So that kind of just like snowballed into what I'm doing right now for Raedio.
Okay, so getting more so into the nitty gritty of actually like securing these brand partnerships, and once the pen dries. So what is the best I'm sorry. Oh, what is the first thing that you should include in a deck for brand partnerships? This question is more so for Desmond and Brian. And Jarick, please feel free to hop in. Anybody can hop in.
I think that going back, I think to what Christina said about early on, if you think about it from like maybe 5 to 10 years ago, and you start throwing what is now considered like experiential activations, right? You know, these are just moments that you're trying to create to enhance something and to bring it to life. And I know in like 2008, when we were in college, like for some reason, we wanted to figure out multiple ways to like to market and put our brand out there. So events was like a big thing to do. You know, it was before like Instagram was super lit, before social media was as explosive as it is now. And it was like the way to touch people in person. Now, when you're that young and you're not as experienced and as seasoned, of course, you don't have the finances and the funds to pay for those experiences out of pocket. So you talk to a few people and they say, man, it would be super cool if you get like a brand partner or get somebody involved who can help you do this. So we went through rounds and rounds of learning how you actually put together a sponsorship deck, which is something we haven't done in a while, right? Because we don't work with brands nowadays, like in terms of like, hey, give us money for like this experience. It's more so like a, you know, partnership and trying to build out their vision of what they're trying to do. But if I remember, I think going back to it, it's just like, one thing that's important, and this might not be in the right order, is that brands want to see your actual case studies and your history of like who you are. They want to know who you are, who they're working with, right? So if it's 6 Degrees or if it's RnBae or the NFL, whatever it may be, they want to know, like, have you worked with any artists or talent before? Have you done any events before? What are the actual analytics from events that you have done? Are there like any intriguing like recap photos to some of those things? So I think in the beginning phase of it, a part of it is actually telling them who you are, and that kind of drives them to feel more impelled to want to have a conversation with you or to even consider you, right? Because if you're just somebody at home and you're like, hey, I have a cool idea, but you've never been out in the field and you've never actually like experienced putting together an actual event, it's a risk for them, right? Let's say you are not well versed in security and staffing and briefing of security, and someone gets into this event that's not 21 plus and they're drinking and not supposed to, and that falls back on, for instance, if the NFL hired somebody because you pitched them an idea and they catch a lawsuit for that, you know? So these are things that they have to be aware of ahead of like the idea. So the idea can be great, but a big part of it is definitely selling in who you are, your capabilities of what you can bring to the table, and why they feel like you're qualified as a partner to potentially work with them.
Yeah, I mean, everything Desmond said is all the way true. And so once you build that kind of equity within your brand for a brand to actually trust you, the next thing you want to make sure that they understand is what they're going to get out of partnering with you. It should be a win-win situation. And I can give several different examples where even now in my role as working with influencers and talent, we don't pitch to a talent or an influencer unless it's a win-win situation. We don't want it to be just the NFL is getting kind of love and clout because we're using somebody's likeness based off of what that influencer might be interested in, what they're passionate about. We try to make sure that we meet them where they're at, and then it becomes a partnership that's good for both sides. One thing that we did in my time at Nike, we were taking this VW bus around the country to go on tour, which was really how Nike started, with this VW bus selling shoes out of this van. And we knew that VW is in 2024, I believe it is, that they're going to have this new electronic van come out. And it was kind of a shot in the dark. We were like, hey, let's see what happens if we hit up VW and tell them that we're about to take this VW old VW across the country, and if they'll lend us their new VW to couple it and then to create buzz and energy, and we would wrap it in kind of our Nike branding for that activation. And VW was all about it and went on tour with this new bus that wasn't even drivable. That it actually got towed everywhere, but that bus showed up at every single stop that we had. And you know, an activation that we did around NFL Combine this past March, pre quarantine shutdown. We worked with Ron Boss Everline, who is a celebrity trainer. You guys might know him from a lot of the training that he does with Kevin Hart. And in his story, while he's a trainer, he used to play football. He played football in college. He wanted to go pro. It didn't work out. And there's actually an article that talks about how he's always thought about or was upset about not being invited to the combine. And then while he wasn't a NFL prospect, we were able to bring him to combine and to create content around that story. And it was a win-win where we needed someone entertaining to be at combine to create energy and drive tune in. For Boss, he always wanted to go to combine and compete, and he got to do that on NFL's dime. And so those type of things are what are enticing to a partner to want to partner with you. They have to see the benefit in even smaller scale. My buddy and I, we used to put on these yoga events back in Boston, and we would get different companies to donate because we could show after that first couple of events, we could say, we're going to have at least 100 heads show up to this event. So if you donate your product, it's going to get eyes on it. And that's how we would work back with these partners.
Just to add on real quick to what everyone's been saying, because it's been great. I think also one of the biggest things that you need to include inside of your deck is making it make sense monetarily and then making it make sense logistically and creatively. Because sometimes things, as you said, like it has to make sense and it has to be a win-win for both parties. Sometimes it doesn't logistically, or it doesn't creatively. Sometimes the brand doesn't have the bandwidth to complete what it is that you're looking for. Sometimes you don't have the bandwidth to complete what it is, the tasks or the deliverables that are inside of the deck. So honestly, making it make sense and making it make sense works for me. I try to pick brands or pick with artists that are missing something, that are missing a Black audience, that are missing a multicultural audience, that are missing an R&B presence. And that's how I'm able to secure a lot of these brand partnerships, because it's something that they need. They're looking for an organic audience. They're looking for Black people to use their products, I work with a lot of product-based brands. So like Red Bull, liquor sponsors, Champion, I work with them as well. So they're looking for these Black audiences. And since we provide that, it's very seamless for us. So when you're making your decks, just make it make sense. Like notice like what is Nike missing in their branding or their marketing rollout. I have that, I can provide it. This is how much it costs, and you sell it. It's literally what it is. So I just wanted to add that.
I was going to add on because I wanted to hear your perspective, since you work a lot, like you said, with brand sponsors. I know the thing that was really confusing for myself and Brian when we were younger was like, yo, how much money should I ask for? Should I ask for 5K? Is 50K like out of the norm? Like, you know, based on like whatever the idea is. So can you talk a little bit more about just like, you know, how to basically assess a situation or an experience you're trying to create, and how to know how much money to ask for in those type of situations? Because I think that's important for like the young people as well.
Of course. So I work forward in the creative, because I am a creative. So I work forward with my idea. Then I go through and I pick which brands I feel could benefit from this or have the money or the bandwidth to help complete. And then I price out, itemize on what I'm going to need. I know I'm going to need a photographer. I know I'm going to need AV. I know I'm going to need videography. I know I'm going to need someone to help me with build outs, et cetera, et cetera. So I do an itemized sheet of what it is that's going to cost me verbatim. And then, I mean, we're being real, right? So I'm going to tack my price on top of that, whatever it is I want to make. So let's say it's $3,000 I want to make from this project. So that's how I combine my prices. So I make sure everyone gets paid, and it's not coming out of my pocket. It's not coming out of my company's pocket, and it's not coming out of my rate, because they're already covered for it. And then I add my rate on top, or my company rate on top. So that's how I get the bag.
And being on the client side when working for Nike and NFL and seeing things like that, when someone comes to you with full blown where all the money is going, it makes you feel comfortable. to work with that person.
Oh, but don't give them your rate. Pack that somewhere else. I'm gonna tell y'all the tea. Like, pack that somewhere else. Don't tell them. Don't be like, where's this $3,000 coming from? No, pack that into. You need an extra videographer. You need a photographer. I'm telling you guys the tea. Like, this is literally what you have to do. But that's how you're gonna get paid. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to put all your work into this activation, and you don't get paid for your work. But your videographer and your photographer and your content manager, your social media girl was paid. Like, get your bag too.
And I think, sorry, Morgan.
But also to that, I say, like, when I'm thinking about events, I want to do something on the other side, like I'd want to attend. Like, have you guys ever been to a place and you're like, food is whack, they got this Jose Cuervo, I haven't drank that since I was 19, I'm gonna die. It's terrible. Like, I always want to make an experience as something that I'd be comfortable at and something I'd tell my friends to go to. So also, guys, like, try and be cheap if you want to. People will talk.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody made such valuable points, but one thing I want to touch on is, how important do you think it is to be really embedded in the culture that you are marketing to? So, like, you know, I mean, we're all Black here, so, you know, how important is it to really know, like, what's going on in this community in order to really market to it? Oh, I'm sorry, anybody could take that away.
Be right.
I think it's really important. I think we're from New York, so we came down here when we were 17 years old, and we've been down here for like 12 years. So I think that before you're trying to really get busy in any market or any community, you gotta kind of like know who you're marketing towards, what things they like, what things they don't like, where they party at, what they don't party at, what they think is cool. Because every community has its own, even though we're all Black, like Atlanta's completely different from New York, and New York's completely different from LA, and they have their own culture. So I think for us, we just obviously going to Morehouse and just kind of being in the city of Atlanta, you kind of learn over time, like, well, okay, this works, this might not work here, this don't. And I think with brands, it's just so, sometimes they miss the mark. So it's like sometimes they'll have, like, me and Des talk about this all the time, like for activations and different things that they want to activate in Atlanta, sometimes they'll use LA or New York based agencies that really don't know the market. And just because they're comfortable with, you know, obviously the workflow or how that agency is doing it, but it kind of is a disconnect when they come down here and then they're like, oh, well, it didn't really work. So I think it's really important to kind of be embedded in the culture, as well as being respected, because just for our agency as well, like, we do a lot of things with brands, but if we wanted to do something just off of 6 Degrees name, it's gonna bring out an audience. Just because we've been down here so long, the people trust us, they know that we're gonna give them quality, whether it's an activation, a product, or a service, they know that we're vetting it first for them. And they trust us because we've been here and we've shown them that, you know, we're for the community and the culture. So I think that that's extremely important.
Yeah, I can attest to that too. Also, just because having your ear to the streets is going to make you a better brand and a better marketer and a better seller, essentially, if you know what you're selling, you're well versed in what you're selling. Because at the end of the day, Black dollars are circulating right now. People want to buy into Black culture and Black movements. So it's great to be an expert if you're marketing into that, in that sector. Also, I feel like if you're not in tune with your culture, you're not a genuine source of entertainment or a genuine source of where people can trust. And that's where a lot of people, well, I know just in Miami where I started my company, that's kind of what a lot of people base things on. Can I trust this person to make sure that anytime that I'm promoting something or doing something, am I going to have a good time? There are people that we do follow. There's promoters that we follow. There's DJs that we follow. There's brands that we follow because we know that they're going to provide a good time because they're tapped into the culture. They know what we want to hear. They know what we want to drink. Also, you can't be afraid to open up new doors and try new venues and new avenues, because again, we're trendsetters. We're in charge here. So you do have to play both of knowing what's popular and what's on the streets and what people do like and what people can get into and bringing new things to the table. So you got to play a little bit of both. But at the end of the day, you still have to know your culture.
Yeah, knowing the culture is so important. I think no marketing move should be made without insight and just like Brian said, and like it's different everywhere you go. I'm from the East Coast, and how people move in LA is very, very different. And when I moved to LA, I was shocked. Every now and then I'm still kind of shocked, but I feel like I'm changing a little bit now. I'm becoming more like these West Coast people, but I like it. It's cool. Everybody's nicer over here. But no disrespect to my New York people. I love y'all. But one thing that I realized when I came to LA was that because it moves differently, a lot of the things that I would do on the East Coast were not going to work in LA. And I learned that very quickly. And for me, you have to submerge yourself into the culture, and just as Christina said, finding kind of those different promoters and things like that, finding those brand ambassadors that already have a pulse and connection to the culture, and build off of them. But once again, it has to be a win-win for both sides. I know right now, if I go to Atlanta and I'm trying to do something dope in Atlanta, I'm gonna hit up 6 Degrees, because I don't know a thing about Atlanta except the music that comes out of there is really, really great. And so when I came to LA, we put on an event with Nike, and it was an event that we connected with someone who's the self-proclaimed mayor of South Central. And we knew no matter what, he was gonna bring people out, and that's exactly what he did. And we uplifted him for his community, but we also uplifted his community as well. And once again, you get that win-win, but you can't get there without knowing and understanding the culture of the market that you're in.
Thank you guys, everybody, for your answers. So for Morgan particularly, I see we have a lot of college students in the group chat right now. So you did talk about your time as a ambassador for Warner. So what skills do you still use to this day in your career now from that position?
Okay. I've been telling my friends I'm going to tell the kids this. Literally, everything is a lie. Do what the fuck you want to. Everything that like, everything. It's just like, my whole thing is like, just be kind, you know, be kind. That's my biggest skill set. I'm a kind person. I want to work with me. And when people are like, oh, like, how do you work? How do you like just talk to people? How do you get these type of connections? I'm nice. And I want to work with me. And I want to work with people like that. So I think that's the biggest skill set, the most underrated skill set. Be somebody who you want to work with.
Agreed.
Amen.
Okay, so for Jarick, I don't really feel like you touched on it. You touched on it a little bit, but you could go a little bit more in depth. So how do you really select the type of influencers that you want to work with? Can you go a little bit more into depth, like what
Absolutely.
It looks like with picking contracts, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'll start off by saying I'm petty. And so similar to piggyback off of what Morgan said, if I don't like you, I'm not going to reach out to you. I don't care how many followers you have, how big you are. It really is about like, you know, if we're going to do this partnership, I want to make sure that I'm working with someone that's cool. And that's actually doing something positive for the community. And so, you know, when it comes to that selection process, and obviously too, you know, I work for a corporation and they have their, you know, their KPIs and all those things that I need to make sure that I'm meeting. And so we do look at following, and, you know, speaking specifically at the NFL, we look at following, you know, but we'll also look at how engaged you actually are with your following. For example, you know, some people bought followers, and there are systems now that can tell us whether or not you purchase followers, and that will deter some brands from working with you. And so, you know, me specifically, you know, you can have 1 million, you could have 500K, you could have 20K, you could have 10K. If you have a strong pulse on your community, for example, this person I was speaking about earlier, I don't even think he's at 10K following, but he'll bring out hundreds of people to any event, anything that he does and touches. And so that is what I look for. And then I'm sorry if I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. And I think in order for us to have a success, we want it to be a relationship. We don't want it to be one and done. We work with you and then that's it. We never just talk to each other ever again. For us, it's all about relationships over transactions. And so back to Morgan's point, if you are not a nice person, we're just not going to want to build that relationship with you. And that has caused some people to work with us once and never again. And that's also caused some people to continuously have things, to the point where we're building plans around certain names because of that relationship that we've built.
Definitely, I really feel you on that. So moving on, going to Cristina. So what do you think is the best strategy for increasing your following on social media? And how frequently do you think people should post the material to keep them engaged without just constantly posting stuff just because you need to post stuff?
Okay, so for social media, in terms of growing your page, you have to think about it as a consumer. So we all follow each other for a reason, whether we know you from high school, you're beautiful, we love your fashion tips, you're a singer, et cetera, et cetera. We all follow you for the reason. So once you create that reason in which people are following you, you can continue to create content in which that is what's going to grow your following. So for example, if I'm into fashion and I'm constantly posting fashion tips and rules and these reels that Instagram rolled out and posting things on Twitter that allow people to learn from me, that kind of grows your brand. So I feel like right now, a lot of personal pages have like look at me content is what's called, like selfies, look what I ate, look what I'm doing today, versus learn from me content, which is this is how to get booked on a show, or this is how to get your project marketing, or this is how to secure a brand partnership from a brand. You have to create an opportunity for people to learn from you, for people to follow you, and that's what's gonna help grow your page. So just think about it that way, like look at who you follow and why you follow them, and kind of create a reason or what your branding is gonna be for you to sell what it is, your product or your knowledge or whatever it is. That's what's gonna like propel you. So making sure that you're on point with your content is key, you know, high quality photos, high quality video, high quality content, but just find that purpose in which you want to teach somebody something. That's what people want to follow you for, to learn something.
Okay, so this question is really for everyone. So with being in this industry, it's very easy to just get like lost in the sauce, keep your head down, doing the work kind of thing. So how do you maintain momentum? Anybody can take it away.
I would say for me personally, I always reach a level where I crash a bit because you're just overwhelmed. Like when you start creating your own company and you know, you pray for the days where you're like, man, I just want to do more. I just want to do more. And it actually comes, right? Because you are qualified, you're experienced, you're dope at what you do, and the work starts to come in. And sometimes you find yourself like working day in and day out. Me, I'm a nature person, so it's like when I find myself crashing, like I like to go tubing, I like to go running, I like to just be out more so in nature and kind of just away from everything that's creative related or work related. So for me, I think you know, it's dope. Like you'll find like, you know, like you'll get what you want and it becomes a little bit more normalized too. And you find yourself, like I said, working from day to night, but just figure out like what's your getaway plan, you know, what's your moment, like whether it's like going to DC to hang out with your friends for a weekend and just kind of being a little bit more off your phone and off your computer. Just figure out those things that kind of like make you happy and make sure you keep those a part of your schedule as well. It could be like going for the ladies or even the guys, like going and getting your nails done or getting a back massage, whatever. You know, I like to go get my back aligned, so that like makes me feel 100 times better from sitting in this chair all day too. So that's it for me.
Oh, anybody else going? Okay. Okay, so, well, first of all, talking about getting your back aligned, I got my chiropractor appointment tomorrow. So, but yeah, so I know we're about to wrap up and I'm about to hand it back over to the student ambassador. So what's just your favorite project that you have worked on so far in your career? This is for everyone.
My favorite project specifically, I worked with Atlantic Records and A3C and Martell for one of the only R&B showcases that A3C has. If you guys are unfamiliar, A3C is a music festival, a hip hop music festival and conference that's in Atlanta. If you haven't been, I definitely recommend going after this COVID situation. But it was a great project to work with because it was a lot of 360 marketing, because it involved the digital marketing from pre-show to marketing campaigns of even promoting these artists. Because the artists that I had are like, they're developing R&B talent. So it's more so putting them on the map, curating playlists, curating content with them that happened pre-show. And then it was also producing the show on ground, show running, making sure everyone's sound check, making sure everyone had a great show. And then I also had Martell there on site. They were our liquor sponsor. So curating cocktails with them, working with them to create an experience, because obviously Martell isn't something that anyone's ordering at a bar, so that's why they hire people like us to promote these products. So because I had to work every angle of marketing that I've ever, it exercised every part of my brain. That's why I really liked working with them, and obviously it was a check, so why not? So that was my favorite thing that I've done thus far, I would say, because it was well-rounded.
All right, I'll go.
Okay.
And shout out to back massages and back alignments as well. That just makes you a better person. And exercise too helps you get your mind off of things. I would say my favorite kind of moment or project that I worked on was definitely the one that I had mentioned earlier. And to give a little bit more background, it was the launch of this new, I used to work in Nike running, specifically in Los Angeles before I left to go to the NFL last year. And one of the last projects I worked on was for this shoe called the Joyride. And everything about that shoe, the story that we were telling was that the shoe was made for the reluctant runner, people that don't like to run. And so how we were trying to entice people that don't like to run was with things that people might like to get for free. So, we had a run where there was going to be puppies at the end of the run. We had a run where there was going to be like nonstop pizza after the run. We had the last one, which you ran and then you had this whole carnival to yourself. This was a big budget, people. But one of the things one part of this journey was, and this goes back to really being connected to your market. A lot of the running projects that we did prior to me being at Nike in LA weren't really touching the Black and brown consumer. And for me, as someone that's Black and someone that runs, I didn't really like that, and wanted to find the best way that we can connect to that market in an authentic way. And this guy who he goes by the name of Butter, the self-proclaimed mayor of South Central. He has a run club, but he's also known for throwing parties that are called The Function. If you have not been to an LA function, you're missing out. You probably haven't really lived yet. And that same summer, funny enough, I went to my first LA function. I remember being there. This is talking about being in your market. I was at this function while I wasn't crip walking or anything like that, because that's not my life. I saw this LA culture that existed at these functions, and I was like, wow, this is special, and how can we authentically be a part of this? And so, while we'll run for pizza and we'll run for the carnival, we'll run for this and that, I was like, what if we can create a we'll run for the function? Because typically, if you didn't get a ticket to the function in time, you didn't get in, or if you got there late, you didn't get in. And so what if you can run these miles, and then you would go to the function for free, and Nike would pay for the first 2-3 hours of your liquor. And that's exactly what we did. And we had a run in Inglewood, California. The run was supposed to be capped at 200, 300 people showed up. At 8 a.m., you would have thought it was a line for like a club or something. Everybody was outside ready. The run started late because people were doing the electric slide. We ran out of food because so many people showed up. Cars were honking their horns, and it was very, very special. And a soundbite that I heard that I'll never, ever forget was someone was like, dang, this is dope that Nike thought about the hood. And those type of things don't happen unless you're connected to the market. And I think a benefit that we have is that in certain areas, you might be familiar with those areas based on where you're from. And sometimes your white counterparts might not be comfortable in those areas. And that is something that we can always bring to the table when you get connected with that market. And when that function happened, it was crazy. We were at Doheny Room. It's another spot you got to go to. Travis Scott raps about it. We ended up there. We had a good time. People showed up, had a good time. People were crying because it was such a special day. But that was one of my favorite activations, events that I ever got to work on. And yeah, I don't want to cry right here, but you know, I believe that you should shed tears if you really want to, but for time purposes, I'm gonna keep it to myself.
All right, Morgan.
I think my favorite before the world shut down was doing music for New York Fashion Week, which was great. And basically how that happened was we had a roundtable, like one of our evening meetings, and everybody's like, what are one of your goals? Like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to program music for Fashion Week. So that's another thing, like a lot of people be talking about, oh, I don't get opportunities, like, oh, pick me face, like, but you, like, when it comes to your opportunity, you have nothing to say. So like, this was my opportunity. So I was like, I just want to do music for Fashion Week. And it was as simple as an email. I was like, okay, you're going, like, talk to the designer, figure all that out. And I figured all of it out. I went with my ace, Philippe, and it was basically watching the models walk, like watching how the design, Jason Rembrandt, watching how he like reacted to the music was playing. We literally finished at 5 a.m. because I'm one of those picky ones where it's like, I don't like it. We're going to do it again. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. We're going to do this until this is right. And it was such a rewarding experience because like one of the people who saw me working was actually how I got the Postmates partnership. People are always watching. When you do good work, when you do bad work, people are watching and people talk. So if you call yourself trying to scam and finesse and skate off and like shortchange, don't do it. It's not worth it because it ends up coming to mess you up in the end. Side note. So basically, we looked at the designs, looked at the creative, and it was like, let's bang out this music. Also going back to knowing who you're working with. Jason, like East Coast, so the ending song was Eve. So it's like being aware of who you're working with and finding that commonality. Super rewarding experience. It went by in all of 15 minutes, but such is life. Very rewarding.
Desmond and Brian.
I'll make mine quick. I know for me, just listening to you guys' stories, I was trying to figure out, because we do a lot in terms of like experiential and like I said, just 360 marketing. But one thing I learned is that you need to go with your intuition. So a photographer that we manage, his name is Gunnar Stahl. He was shooting all of the out of home, which is like the billboards and stuff that you see inside of like a gas station, all of the promotional stuff for Budweiser, which is not traditionally like a brand that we would work with. But, you know, when we were working with them, they were trying to do more things in culture. And I remember we got the out of home stuff done and I was on a call and something told me, it was just like, yo, like, just bring up, like, just ask them, like, are you guys doing an event for this? And he said, I asked him and he said, no, we're not, you know, we kind of thought about something, but we don't know the market. Like what you guys were saying, it was like, we've never showed up in Atlanta before. So we didn't have an agency that we thought would make fit. I said, well, we don't just manage Gunnar Stahl. We have a whole entire creative agency. This is what we do. So I pitched them, you know, me and B Wright put together a concept in which we built like a gas station, like around the release of this can that they did with Big Boy from Outkast. And I remember like when I pitched it to them, they said, oh, this is, they said, it's not premium enough. The idea is not premium enough. So I said, well, do me a favor, share this idea with Big Boy and his team. And, you know, based on that, like, just get back to me. They shared it. Oh, Big Boy loves this idea. Like, he's just so blown away. Like, we have to do this. So now we have this global brand, which is Budweiser. Like I said, a non-traditional brand for us to work with. And it's beer, right? So in my head, I'm thinking like, how are we going to get people excited to come to something, even though there's a celebrity tie to it, how do we get them excited about beer? And I figured that if we created a good enough experience around the beer, people would just show up, they would enjoy the experience, and they would drink the beer. So I think for me, it was like that intuitive moment to just have that further conversation, which led to like this amazing activation that we built out. And, you know, also I think the other part of it was that when they called us back, like a couple months from now, our mentors own a big agency in New York City called Team Epiphany. You guys should definitely look that up, whoever's watching. And their account is Budweiser, but us as like their mentees, like we won that business over for that situation. And I remember they called me, right, and they were like, yo, Budweiser's in the meeting raving about that activation. Like they want to do more stuff like that. And lastly, Budweiser gave us a call and just let us know how much they really appreciated it from A to Z. And then they also mentioned that it was nominated for like a lot of internal marketing awards and things like that. And I was like, wow, if I never brought that up or had that conversation, this moment wouldn't happen. And it's like one of the greatest builds that we've done so far. It's something we're super proud of. So that's probably my favorite experience so far.
Yeah, my favorite is a Gunna project as well. Last year we published his first book that he actually had an Amazon and through a book publisher, Abrams. So I think that was my favorite just because it showed just us as an agency. It just showed us using all of our capabilities to kind of work through this whole project that we kind of spent the year on building it up and everything. So from designing the book to obviously putting together the deal with the publisher and executing as far as seeding, as far as other brand partnerships like Puma and BBC that we kind of did collabs with for the release of the book. Also the activations that we teamed up with Red Bull for their first Red Bull Music Festival in Atlanta, but we had our own day. So I think that was like my favorite thus far, just because it just showed all our capabilities and we kind of executed it so on point, to the point where it was definitely one of like the top sellers in Amazon. And it was up, I think when he released it, it was high on the charts in the 100 books sold. So, and it sold a whole bunch. So I think that shows a campaign that 6 Degrees had full control over definitely a talent that we managed as well to kind of scope it out and see our range and our ability to kind of touch the masses and make a successful project. So that was mine.
Thank you everyone for sharing your stories. They were all amazing. And I know everyone who is watching, they definitely got some gems tonight. I hope you had your notebooks out. So I'm gonna pass it over to Tiana, our student ambassador, and go ahead, take it away.
All right, do you guys? Yeah, okay, cool. So for the students, there's a lot of students in here. So we just want to know, just talk about why is it important to network with your peers instead of like networking up the ladder? So yeah.
I talk about this all the time. So it's crazy because I know people, when we were younger, right? So it's, obviously, it all depends on obviously your community that you're in. But when we were younger, we would always go towards, like we would always reach up. But I think that we found, because we were so locked in Atlanta and Morehouse and the Atlanta scene, that we couldn't help but there was other talented people around us. So we would always go and create with everybody around us first, like, you know what I'm saying? And then it was just more so like, all right, well, you have a cool idea. This is we mentioned Gunnar Stahl, like Gunnar before, like he was really Gunnar Stahl. Yo, let's get over here, let's do a photo shoot. Or Cam Kirk, before he was Cam Kirk. I don't know if y'all familiar with him, but Cam is a really big photographer in Atlanta too. But we all came up together, Mike Will, Metro Boomin, like before these guys were where they're at now, everybody was just young and trying to figure it out. And I think the creative energy always spawned to be something else that people want, especially when you take time and you invest into the people that's on the same level as you with the same talent. And you can see like, all right, cool, well, I need a videographer, or I need somebody to take photos, and you rock with those people. if they have the same passion and everything, everybody's gonna elevate up. Like it's like, you know, we're doing branding and marketing, but it's definitely somebody, you know what I'm saying, younger that's in the same position that we were in when we were in school, just trying to figure it out and trying to move around and figure out who to use for video, what brand partnership and everything. And it's always good to get information from people that's up top, but I think you'll get the most effective and the most genuine connections, I think, when it's your peers, because it's also, you're not also as busy and you're also right there. And like we see the growth and it's just more genuine. So I think that that's really important than anything.
That's dope. Anybody else want to answer the question before we end?
Yeah. So I think it's the same. You know, I agree with everything that Brian said. You never know where someone's going to end up. And I think while, you know, networking with your peers is definitely a smart thing to do, you still do want to be selective, and not selective in the way that, you know, you're only looking for people that you think are going to blow up, but selective in the way that people that are good people that, you know, have maybe a similar mindset, similar goals, and you never know. I think the amount of people that I just maintain good relationships with that I ended up working with years down the line is insane. I mean, someone that I worked with at Nike that went to another company, and then now me and this company are doing a collaboration, or you know, it could lead to a job. I have this NFL job because of someone else that I knew through somebody else that was working at the NFL. And while we don't really know each other that well, they had an idea of me, and the only impression of me was a good one. And so that got me in the door for an interview. And I think you'll be surprised about what can be. I mean, honestly, having worked for a corporation now for I don't know, coming up on like 8 to 9 years, you'll find that it's a lot of times it's not even really the people that are at the top that are really like making moves. You know, they might make the approval, but it's the people that are at your level that are coming up with the ideas, that are putting in the work, and that are executing. And so those are the people that you want to you know, be cool with, and those are the people that you want to build relationships with. No shade to anybody that's like a VP or something, but you know.
Also, to piggyback off that is completely true, because even like when I was an assistant, my bosses were asking me about things. So it's like you're trying to reach the top, and you're trying to like talk to those people, but realistically they want to talk to you. Like they want to hear what you guys have to say. So like just talk to people. Even was it Brian, like you guys graduated from Morehouse in 2013. I graduated from Clark in 2013. Like you're going to see people again, which is why I always go back to be kind to people, because you never know who you're going to be on a panel with, who you're going to run into, like who's going to be where. So it's like, make those connections with people. Don't shade people. Don't slight people because you're like, oh, this person isn't that person. This person isn't popping. They'll be the ones to give you a job one day.
Awesome. So that's the end of this panel. I just want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming out and just giving us some gems on how you got to where you are and what we can do. So yes, if you want to follow these people on Instagram, head over to Culture Future Agency Instagram, and they're all tagged on each of their pictures. So yes, thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you all of you for coming onto this panel.
Thanks, I appreciate you.
Bye, have a good evening.
I'm gonna connect with all of y'all. All of y'all, for real.